Have you ever questioned if a guy likes you or not? Even though guys are supposed to be simple, doesn't it get pretty complicated trying to guess if he's actually flirting with you or just being nice? Well, what if I used my understanding of how men think to tell you exactly what to look for to know for sure if he likes you? So join me on today's show where we'll be discussing how to tell if a guy likes you. That way you can stop being so confused by his actions and you might just discover he had a huge crush on you this entire time. Point number one is about the comfort zone. One of the things that you may not notice that men will do subtly when they like you is step outside of their comfort zone just to get a little bit closer to you. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. Let's say you're at work and this guy at work really has a disdain for sushi. So I put here, man plus raw sushi, raw fish, equals he does not eat. He's never tried it. He's never had a desire to try it. He's always thought it's disgusting. And he's always had in his mind that he'll throw up the moment he ever tries raw sushi. But you love sushi. You can't get enough of sushi. You dream about sushi. You want to stuff sushi in your... You love sushi, okay? And so you, because he's your coworker, let's say you're really like, oh, John, you gotta try sushi for the first time. I know you hate it, and I know you think you won't like it, but I promise you it's way better than you're imagining in your mind, and it's not gonna make you sick. And so because he has a little bit of a thing for you, right? Even though this makes him very uncomfortable, and even though he's never really been open to the idea of trying sushi, right? He ends up, because you're now in the equation here, trying sushi just for the simple fact that he knows and sees over the course of time how much you love it, how much you rave about it, and how excited it makes you. And subsequently, even though he was never excited about eating raw sushi, some of that excitement rubs off on him, and he starts to adopt the mentality, well, maybe this is something I could be open to and I could try, even though it's outside of my comfort zone, not necessarily for him, but for you. And this can be very subtle because you might not realize this is happening. You might think he's stepping outside of his comfort zone because he just feels like stepping outside of his comfort zone. But the reality of it is, for men, we have a natural desire to be comfortable, which is why if we get the opportunity to do less for women and do less in relationships, guys will start to meet that bare minimum threshold a lot of times, right? It's comfortability. But subsequently, when he really has a desire for you and he really likes you and he feels like stepping outside of his comfort zone will bring you two closer together, he ends up doing that, hoping, right, subconsciously, that this process of him trying sushi and stepping out of his comfort zone will give you guys a little bit more of a bond, right? And he's a little bit more open-minded. That's why you see when guys get into relationships, they're trying all sorts of things and doing all sorts of things that they would never do by themselves or with the guys. Point number two is about softness. You have to be observing not only how a guy is interacting with you, but how he interacts with other people in relation to you. Let me give you an example of that. Let's say you're at a party with a guy, and at this party, you're noticing that he talks to everyone, all of his guy friends and all the people in the circle of the party a particular way. He's brash, he's strong, he's confident, he talks to them real stern, he makes jokes in a way where he's kind of like a little bit rugged, and he's like the life of the party, and he has ultra confidence and all that good stuff. But then, at some point in the party, he's isolated with just you. And then you experience what you see and observe as a little bit of a different side of him than this hard, tougher exterior that he's been showing everyone else as this ultra super confident version of himself. And then when he's with you and you guys are just, let's say, out on the balcony of the party, having a one-on-one chat, he's now telling you a little bit more of his insecurities. He's sharing things with you that you would have never thought was happening inside this person, because the way he presents himself out here is much different than the softer side he's now showing you when you guys are one-on-one. This is a perfect example of softness and how guys will naturally reveal that softer side of themselves when they're alone with you. Because the woman that warms their heart tends to bring out a, I don't want to say less masculine version of himself, but a different side that he would just be unwilling to show other people, because as a man, it's very scary to be around other men or to be in public places where you don't yet feel emotionally safe and share intimate parts of yourself or your personality or your insecurities for fear of, one, being judged, being shamed or being stepped on by other men. Because out there in the real world, it's like a dog-eat-dog world for men. And us, in our hunter mentality, have grown and evolved to feel like in order for us to go out into the real world and deal with it and be successful hunters, we have to toughen up and harden up and be a man and be a soldier and not feel things and not feel pain. So that's how we kind of operate within the world in order to survive and in order to thrive. But in reality, it's exhausting to be in that mental state and that emotional state all of the time. In fact, we need women in our lives, the women that we love in our lives, to bring out and encourage that softer side of us so that we can explore different sides of our personality and our emotions and not just have a hard, tough exterior 24/7. And if you have a personal question for me, head down into the link in my description, click where it says private relationship advice. You type out your question, as many paragraphs and details as you want. You submit it to me. I get your message, I respond with a voice message, send it back to the email that you submitted with, and then you'll receive advice or perspective on your relationship or situationship directly from me. Point number 3 is about hypotheticals. One thing I want you to notice is when men will constantly present you with these very interesting hypothetical scenarios that always have to do with you. Let me give you an example of what I'm referring to. So let's say this guy that you work with is talking about his regular everyday lifestyle. Yeah, I like to party, I like to have fun, I like to go out, sometimes I might be having a one-night stand, I'm someone that likes to enjoy what life has to offer me. However, let's say hypothetically me and you were in a relationship, me and you, just hypothetically, and you were my girlfriend, longtime girlfriend, and we had a lot of love in between us. I would probably stop all the late nights and probably instead of being late nights, me and you would be doing things like movie nights. You like that? And, probably instead of all that going out and partying, right? We'd probably be doing things like date nights where you could dress up, wear your tightest pair of jeans and maybe look so good for me that, I rock around spanking your bottom. What? Hypothetically. And I would just, instead of spending so much time not caring for my body, mind, and soul, I'd be taking care of both you and me. Hypothetically, if we were in a relationship, hypothetically, that's what I would be doing, hypothetically. And if you notice, right, after a while of dealing with a guy that likes you, you'll notice that he's always hypothetically bringing up situations that relate to you and him being together. He might even be using an example, but coincidentally, his examples always consist of you being his romantic partner, okay? This is another clear sign when he's using a lot of hypotheticals like this that he's hinting at something that's going on within his mind. Sometimes guys will do this thing called projecting, where they project outwardly without actually saying what they're feeling or thinking. Naturally, they project outwardly what they're saying or thinking in a way that's less serious, more innocent, and maybe a joke, right? Or in this case, a hypothetical scenario. Ha ha, if you were my girlfriend and we kissed and made out and fell in love, ha 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 ha, hypothetically. Number 4 is about getting personal. The reason I say that is because there are certain questions and conversations that will be appropriate for a public setting or a workplace or a school setting if you guys go to the same university. And then there are certain questions that are more related to your personal life. For example, right? The work version of you, in process of having conversation with you, things that would be relevant to the work you would be things like questions about projects, collaborations, assignments, accounting, things like that, right? So if he were to have conversation with you about that, those aren't abnormal conversations to have with you in the context of the work you or the public you, okay? If you guys go to the same school, for example, right? Now, when you notice that a guy is transitioning from asking you questions about the work you to asking you questions about the personal you, now we've transitioned into a different stage. Because the reality of it is, there's only one real reason why he really wants to know more about the personal you. Because he's taking an interest in you outside of just the workplace, outside of just school, or outside of just the casual group setting. And he's asking you these more personal questions because he's trying to secretly get to know you. Why is he trying to get to know you? Because he has some feelings there for you. So you're going to notice, right? Some of the questions, things like, hey, what's your family life like? I want to know more about you in that sense. What are your hobbies? What are your friends like? Where do you go to hang out, right? This is one of the key questions, right? Guys love this one. Where do you go to spend your free time? When you're not at work or when you're not at school, right? They're trying to see how can they meet you or see you outside of this public setting in a more intimate setting where he can see this other side of you. They'll also ask you personal questions like, oh, are you single? Obviously. Or they'll ask you personal questions like, oh, so you probably went to that place last week with your boyfriend, didn't you? Oh, you don't have a boyfriend. Oh, you don't have a boyfriend. This is a great way to get girls to reveal more of their personal life in a way that not only allows me as a man to know more about you and do a little bit more digging, but now I can also get some answers that might interest me because I like you, i.e., are you actually single? Do you yet have a boyfriend? If not, make way. Point number 5 is about status. Now, I talked about this in our last point, how guys will sneak in the question to find out if you have a boyfriend or not. Now, on an ongoing basis, when a guy really does like you, and you probably didn't realize this, he will always be checking the status of your relationships. Meaning, are you single now? And if so, 2 weeks from now, are you still single? And you'll notice he's constantly always referencing or checking in on the status of whether or not you're still single. And if you started seeing anyone or started liking someone, here's another really interesting tip that I'll give you about status. See, when a guy thinks you're very attractive, and in his mind, he's thinking, I like her, so I'm assuming everyone else likes her because they'll probably see the same beauty, intelligence, amazingness, seductiveness that I see in her. He'll start referencing you or referencing the fact that you don't have a boyfriend yet as a bit of a weird thing, right? Because in his mind, he's thinking all of these men should be attracted to you the same way that I'm attracted to you. So it will almost seem like a puzzle to him why you're still single. So you'll start seeing him refer to you or ask you questions as if like, wait, why are you single? I don't really understand it because you're attractive, you're smart, you're intelligent. I know I want you, and I know I'm thinking of you, and I know I would love to be in a relationship with you. So I'm assuming all these other guys want to be in a relationship with you, which is why on an ongoing basis, they're always going to be making the assumption that you'll probably be in a relationship very soon. So they're constantly checking in on the status. Now, here's a little bit of a pro tip that I'll give you because guys won't mention this to you because they're slick about it. Not every time that they ask or check in on the status are they going to come out and say, hey, do you have a boyfriend now or not? Because I know that I like you and I'm just checking in on that. A lot of times what they're going to do is periodically bring up the personal side of things to see how your life has been going. They're going to ask you personal questions that are related to basically, are you dating someone? Have you gone on any dates? What have you been doing with your time? The check-ins, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, right? To try and get an understanding in an indirect way of whether or not you're moving forward with a relationship or you're building with someone to try and understand, does he have a chance here? Is there a possibility with you and him? And if there's any room or space for him to make his move, all of these things are going through his mind, which is why he's constantly checking in on that status because he wants to make sure he doesn't miss his opportunity. Point number 6 is about inconveniencing. Now, in a scenario in which a man is inconveniencing himself for you, for your comfort, for your pleasure, for your happiness, now we have a situation where this guy definitely likes you. Because one thing that men can't help themselves but do is take action for you, even if that action inconveniences him. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. Let's say you work with a guy, and the guy that you work with, right, he lives on the south side of, let's say, the workplace, right? So for him to get home, he has to drive south. Now, let's say for you, in order for you to get home, you have to drive north. And let's say for the sake of example, in this day at work, your car has broken down, some issue happened with it. So for the next couple of days, you're gonna have to take an Uber to work. And you tell him about that as you're chit-chatting in the break room and things like that. And he says, oh, don't you worry, I got you. I'll drive you home from work every day for the next 3 or 4 days while your car's in the shop. quite a nice thing to do. In fact, it's really nice because he lives completely the opposite direction of you from the workplace. So why is he doing that? He's doing that to make you happy, right? He's doing that to make your life easier, even though it comes at the expense of his gas. Now, I want you to understand something, because I know some of you might have experienced something like this and think to yourself, oh, well, my coworker, my, the guy that's in my class, the guy that's in my friend group, whatever the case may be, he's just doing that because he's being nice. No, I'm a man, I'm telling you, no. He's never just doing that because he's being nice. I want you to understand, men do things out of motivation and inspiration. So in this scenario, what is he motivated by? He's motivated by the fact that he has a desire for you. The fact that he has feelings for you is pushing him to say, hey, F your gas today, buddy. You can get some more gas later. There's gas everywhere. Don't worry yourself about gas. Worry yourself about doing something nice for this lady that you like. Now, the reality of it is, men are nice people, yes, because you're probably thinking, well, he's just being a nice person. Men can be nice people, and they do want to be nice people when they like you and because they like you. So when they like you and have feelings for you, it's very easy for them to go out of their way for you and be nice to you, right? And this is one of those examples of him inconveniencing himself because he is motivated by his desire for you. Point number 7 is about check-ins. One of the things that you'll notice guys will do when they'll like you is they're gonna constantly be keeping tabs on you. So for example, this guy that you work with or that you see often at school, right? You might say, or he might have conversation with you, and he's asking you constantly about what you were up to the last time that you guys saw each other, or from the last time that you guys saw each other, whether it be at work or at school. So let's say, for example, you see this guy and he's like, hey, haven't seen you since the weekend. What were you up to last weekend? Tell me everything that you were doing. Yeah, last night, I noticed that you weren't really responding to my messages there. Were you on a date or something? Were you out at the movies? Who were you with at the movies? Tell me everyone that was there. Okay, your day off from work. I know you're taking a day off. What do you plan to do on your day off? Could you explain exactly where are you gonna be? You gonna go to a party, the club? How are you going to get there? Who's going to drive you? Who's going to be your DD? Tell me, right? Your sick day, right? The day that you were missing from work. What did you end up doing? You said you were having like a throat issue? Did someone bring you soup or anything like that? The reason he's asking all these questions, right, is because he's trying to get an understanding of what you're doing when he's not around. Because the more days and times he can check off, the more he can confirm or deny if there's someone else in your life. See, when a guy likes you and he's been liking you for a while, he's going to try and keep tabs on your life. Because what he doesn't want to happen is he doesn't want someone to come from underneath or come out of the sky, scoop you up, and then you're no longer available to him. So he's going to be checking in on this process to see, are you dating someone? Is someone else in your life? What are you up to, right? And he's also, in some scenarios as well, going to be using this process as a way to build up courage within himself to maybe ask you out on a date, okay, as well. So there's a lot of things happening simultaneously, but I'll tell you for free, guys do not bother keeping tabs on women they don't have feelings for, right? Because it just serves no purpose for us as men to be worried about your whereabouts, what you're doing, on days that we're not seeing you, especially when it's not necessarily relevant or affecting our lives, unless we have feelings for you. Point number 8 is about excuses. Now, guys are not very good at hiding this one because it becomes very obvious when he's really coming to you to just chit chat with you about anything and looking for any excuse to start a conversation with you, right? And the more he likes you, the more obvious this will become because he will literally use anything. You have a pen? Oh, I see looks like you're struggling there. You need some help there? You're like, I don't need help with anything. I'm perfectly fine. Oh, well, I'm having trouble understanding this math equation that we got in class. It's a tough one. So I was just wondering if maybe you could, 2 plus 2. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think maybe we should study together. That's what I think maybe we should. lunch, right? Any excuse that he could possibly use to start a conversation with you, keep a conversation with you, you'll start to feel like, is it actually a joke? Like, or like, is he really just trying to make a conversation out of anything? Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I want you to recognize he's not doing that by accident, right? If you almost feel like he's coming up with things to just come to you about or start a conversation with you about, that's what's happening, okay? And that's happening because he has feelings for you. Guys will always want to put themselves in a position where they can talk to you or have an excuse to talk to you outside of just being honest and saying, yeah, by the way, I really like you and I want to take you out on a date, which is why I'm looking for any excuse to start a conversation with you. Rather than just say that, I'll beat around the bush by having conversation with you about everything else under the sun until I'm blue in the face. Point number 9 is about the fact that he will treat you and refer to you as being different. What do I mean by that? See, guys will project their feelings outwardly a lot of the times because they're not very good at hiding them. One of the things you'll notice is in the way that he'll speak about you, even to you, he'll refer to you as being separate from the crowd of the average or regular woman. You see, I drew you nice and voluptuous here with a nice big booty dump truck because when you go into work or at school, you're wearing the tightest pair of jeans and everyone loves you, okay? So the reason I say this is because for the men, you have to understand, if within his eyes, he sees you as someone who is very desirable, he's also going to describe you that way, even in a more innocent sense. For example, right? Let's say he's talking about the things that he saw on TikTok. Oh, you know, all these girls nowadays, they're like mid, like they barely even look good. And you know what I mean? You rarely ever see someone who's adventurous like you are. You rarely ever see someone who's really a good time like you are. Most of these girls, they ain't even really funny like you. To be honest, you're one of the only girls that even cracks jokes that I laugh at. And you'll notice on a regular basis, he's always separating you from the crowd, right? He's always finding some reason to reference how you're so much more different than all of these other peasants that are below you, okay? Now, this is a clear indicator of what's going on in his mind as well. The reason he's referring to you that way is because that's how he views you within his own mind. And the only way he can view you like that within his own mind is if he directly has feelings towards you. Point number 10 is about being a fixer. You cannot ever forget. For men, the way that they take action for you will always be directly correlated to their desire for you. They don't know how to separate feelings from action. So when he becomes a fixer in your life, meaning any situation that you go through, he's always expressing not only a desire, but an eagerness and an urgency to fix your problem, no matter what it may be. If your car breaks down, if you're having no money this month for whatever reason, you need a ride home, you're just bored, whatever it may be, he's always figuring out how can he be of service to you to fix your problem. Whether it inconveniences him, like we talked about before, or even if it's convenient for him, he wants to solve your problem, whether in a smaller sense, like something as small as giving you a ride home, or maybe just making you feel a little bit better and telling you a joke when he sees that you're feeling down and you're feeling sad, or something as big as maybe, you know, helping you fix your car, or, you know, helping fix your computer if your computer broke down or whatever the case may be, right? So the reason I say this is because sometimes you might think to yourself, well, he's being a fixer for me because that's just his personality, right? He's coming over and he's making these adjustments for me in the way that he just has some expertise in. And so he's fixing my car, you know, for me, and he's under the hood here, you know, doing hours and hours of work because he's just a nice guy and he just knows how to change some oil. No. That's not why he's doing that. He's doing that really because he likes you. And because he likes you, he's being nice enough to inconvenience himself and do some things for you. Now, I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing, but what I want you to do is I want you to be able to use that to be able to spot very quickly, oh, I'm in a situation where you're motivated by the fact that you like me. I don't want you to be confused when guys especially are taking lots and lots of action for you, thinking that they're taking all this action for you to be nice. No, they're not taking it to be nice. They're taking it to be nice because they like you.